Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the main event of today's Nerdgasm doubleheader. I am your host, Caleb Coho, joined not by two judges this week because, man, oh man, did I try to get a third judge, but it's been hectic with shooting mayhem at the Multiplex this week. So I was able to luckily get one of the best debaters. In fact, he is the late night with Take 3 mini speed round debate champion of the world of the Worldwide Movie Games Network Association, right? No, I don't think I have it.
Of America.
Of America. All right, Cody Newberry is my co-host and judge tonight. How are you doing?
See, you don't need three judges when you have me on the panel because normally my opinion is all that matters. And hopefully they do a good job to convince me that they had the right answer. So, yeah, I'm excited for tonight. I love debating. I think it's a true art form that is not shown that through the communities that much because it's always about what you know. But can you defend what you know? That's the key. So, I'm excited.
I completely agree. Normally, this is where I throw it to our third judge, but we don't have one. But Cody is our second and third and all the judges that we need. But tonight's main event, you saw Jess versus Brian just before this. Tonight is the battle of our friendly neighborhood movie nerds. Dominic, Rizzi, and Jay Burnz are here in a civil war. I'll start with Dom. How are you feeling about tonight?
Oh man, I just came off of a Full Metal 5 chance. People are hitting me up like crazy because I'm not responding to my frat calls because I take priority in this shit and I'm ready to go. Jay, I love you, but I'm about to pull a Friday and knock you the fuck out. So let's do this.
All right, and Jay Burnz, how do you feel?
First and foremost, my grandmama gave me that chain. You need to watch yourself. You're my guy. I got mad love for you. But I'm pretty sure that I can counter almost everything it is that you have to say with a single sentence.
All right. Well, tonight is the battle of my guy and every ad-lib conceivable from Dominic Rizzi. All right. So with that, let's get right into our debates tonight. And your first question for tonight prep debate. Very quickly, I'll explain how this works, as I just forgot that I didn't do that, so we're going to cut all that out and start right here. This Nerdgasm works like this. You're going to have 3 prep rounds for debate where the competitors already know the topic and their answers, and they will have 1 minute for opening statements, 5 minutes maximum for intermingling and debate, and public discourse, and their final closing statements will be 1 minute. So in total, each round will be at most 7 minutes. We have 3 of those before we get into the speed round where anything can happen. First 1 to 5 points wins the match. Any questions before we get into round 1?
Nope, let's do this.
All right, so round 1, your first question is thus. What is the best DC film without Batman in it? Without the character of Batman. That makes this a lot smaller of a pool. And we'll start with Dom. 1 minute whenever you are ready.
All right. So DC has been pretty hit or miss at this point in terms of films that seem to happen without Batman's name on it. However, there is one film that, even though it does not include any of the actual DC characters, it is, in my opinion, not only one of the best DC comic book adaptations, it is arguably a film that was said to be impossible to make and is still in my top 10 favorite comic book films of all time, and that would be Zack Snyder's 2009 adaptation of Watchmen. Now, is this the part where I keep going, or do I just include the movie? Okay, keep going. All right, so Watchmen is a movie that is adapted from the Alan Moore, and shout out to Dave Gibbons, the artist and illustrator for that comic. I actually got that question right in a comic book league match. Was a movie that was an adaptation of a graphic novel that was said to be impossible to do, and I would argue that Zack Snyder, somebody who has received a lot of hate and flack, some of it merited, some of it not so much, in the last couple of years for his inclusion and his contributions to the DC cinematic universe, or worlds of DC that they say now. And I have to say, Watchmen is quite possibly not only one of the smartest, most unconventional films out there, but it has some of the most beautiful imagery I've ever seen. It tells some of the most unique stories. It is one of the few films that parodies superhero films, but doesn't need to be outrageous and not necessarily obnoxious, that's the wrong word, but kind of in your face the way that Matthew Vaughn does whenever he does his superhero parodies.
Right.
I think the casting, yep.
All right. That's we'll give you that for your opening statement.
All right, cool.
A little bit over that for that.
I was just I think you went over a long time.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, Jay. He's got Watchmen. What have you got? 1 minute for your opening statement, and then you have 5 minutes in between your debate.
All right, I picked one of the better movies of last year. I know it's a relatively new one, but I picked Wonder Woman, and it's not because I thought it would be the easy win. It's because if you think about it, there's a whole lot about this movie that works, and there's quite a bit that doesn't, but I still think it's easier to point out the merits of this movie more than it is to point out the flaws, and we all know the third act is flawed. That being said, you can pick apart Watchmen, and I will just stop there.
All right. Time out for a second. Okay. Never mind. Intruder has entered and left the room. Goodbye. All right.
There's our third judge. Why did you send him away?
No. Nah, he's busy putting the new window in the kitchen.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm still recovering from being sick as a dog yesterday.
That's right. All right.
That scared the shit out of me.
All right, Wonder Woman versus Watchmen. You guys are going to have a strict 5-minute maximum on your debate. If this debate starts chewing its own tail, I will step in, try and get final statements. But 5 minutes, you guys, we'll start with Jay. Right back into it for the regular discourse.
All right. So, yeah, I'm not really going to touch on my movie a whole bunch. I don't really feel I have to until it gets brought up. That being said, the issue that I have with, and I think a lot of people have with Watchmen, is that nobody watches the theatrical movie. It's literally the most boring, convoluted piece of garbage ever. You need that 3.5-hour director's cut for it to even start to make some semblance of sense. It's been on my fucking Hulu watch list for the last month and a half, and I've watched it piecemeal. But every time I watch the director's cut, I get engrossed. But the fucking theatrical release of that movie, hot garbage. Easiest way to put it. It's a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. Wonder Woman certified fresh at 93%. There's just the best thing about that movie is Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach, and that's literally all it's got going for it.
All right, Jay, if it's my turn now, I'm gonna knock down all your points and also make your movie feel like a piece of shit in the process, just so you know. So, first thing, I think that the argument of the whole director's cut versus theatrical cut is bullshit, because for both instances of Zack Snyder's theatrical cuts versus director's cuts, I have felt almost the exact same way, if not my feelings have been a little bit accentuated by the director's cut, whereas Watchmen, what's it called? Whereas Watchmen enjoyed the theatrical cut, didn't hate it, definitely thought there were problems, but enjoyed it, versus the director's cut I absolutely loved. So if anything, it was expanding on a movie that I already very much enjoyed. Versus Batman versus Superman, hated it theatrically, hated the director's cut even more because it literally did nothing to contribute to my enjoyment. So I think that argument is a non-argument to begin with. To add to that, Jackie Earle Haley is not the only good part about that movie. I think Billy Crudup is quite possibly the most underrated performance in superhero history as Dr. Manhattan. But just to get to stop talking about my movie for a little bit, because I think my movie has already made its stance. Wonder Woman, the problem with Wonder Woman is that, yes, well, I will fully admit it did everything that it could for the world of like progression in superhero movies, and including a little bit more real life importance and themes to it. The problem is, as a film itself, Wonder Woman is quite possibly one of the weakest films I've ever seen. It is very loud and obnoxious. I think that it's kind of overhyped as a film, because I think that a lot of the stuff with the Amazonians, I think the idea to have all of the other fantastic actresses, I would like to say, mimic Gal Gadot's accents is a very weak choice, because it makes that entire segment come off as cartoonish and not as powerful as it should be. Not to mention the fact that the complete third act of that film undercuts the entire trajectory of what the film is going for, not once, not twice, but 3 different times, in that the film has multiple attempts to segue out of its initial shoehole that it keeps placing itself into. And I don't know if it's Patty Jenkins or the studio, but whatever the case may be, we just end up with another schlocky garbage CG fight versus Watchmen. I would argue actually did a better job with it and in changing one of the 2 biggest things about the comic. And I would argue that Watchmen did a better job of that in the film, with the idea of having Dr. Manhattan be the tertiary force that unites the US and the USSR, rather than having be this giant squid monster that just apparently comes out of nowhere. So I think that sense is actually a brilliant move by Zack Snyder and helps make that property of Watchmen an even better one to begin with than it already was.
What's our time at?
It's at 3.5 minutes right now.
I don't really want to get into you with this whole CGI versus CGI shtick here. So I'm just, I can't even say I don't want to fight it. I kind of agree with you. I told you that the worst portion of that movie was its third act. But when I look at Watchmen, yeah, the first 15 minutes, cool. The next 35 minutes, yeah. If I wanted a fucking political drama, I would watch Lincoln. That's not what I'm in this for. And that's literally, it's really all it is. It's politics on a certain level. And yeah, you had the ability with Ozymandias to have a great ending and a great villain and choices that mattered. But really, at the end, what do we get? What do we get? We get a movie that most people can't even fucking sit through. That's my whole thing on that one.
Well, just an including statement. If we're talking about like mass popular audience appeal versus actual critical acclaim, I would argue that I already made my point in terms of Wonder Woman, where there's a reason why Wonder Woman is as highly well critically received as it is, and it has nothing to do with the fact that it's actually a good movie. It's a good movie, but it's not a great movie. Versus Watchmen, I would say that there's a difference between ideology and politics, and I would definitely say that Watchmen definitely hedges more so towards the ideology, and that's what makes that film so interesting and so brilliant to me.
We'll stop right there, and we'll get into our. That was a good place to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
We'll get into closing arguments, and I'll actually start with you, Dom. Just make this next minute your closing argument.
All right, got it. Watchmen is not only one of the best comic book adaptations of all time, it is one of the few comic book movies that I would argue broke a lot of ground in being the first rated R film following up The Dark Knight that, for the most part at least, did not disappoint a lot of people on its initial the fact that Zack Snyder was able to deliver damn near an impossible task, make that film look as visually interesting as it is, and arguably deliver like Civil War to a certain extent before Civil War was even a thing, versus Wonder Woman, which, while I do appreciate it, I feel like its cultural significance is largely overharped by the fact that it is not that strong of a film. Like the actual film. Yeah. All right.
All right, Jay, your minute for your closing argument whenever you start talking.
I feel like we literally have the same argument for different movies for the most part. That being said, you really can't be ideological without being political to a certain point. They go hand in hand. They're two sides to the same coin, which would make it still political. It doesn't. That to me is not why I go to a superhero movie. Yes, it was gritty. Yes, it was a decent adaptation. But my God, dude, I don't want to sit through all of this fucking talking. It's not that I want to just get to action, because there was a lot of talking and quite a bit of action in Wonder Woman. That being said, yeah, okay, so you're saying because it's women, it's 2018, the Me Too movement, it's doing this and it's getting clout because of it. Yes and no, but I mean, the argument can be made for multiple different movies, especially in the last decade. I don't think that really has anything to do with why it received as much audience attention as it did versus.
All right. We'll cut you out there for your minute. So yeah, those are the arguments for round one. Cody, what were your thoughts? We'll start with you.
This is weird. And I mean that in the best way possible. it's like both guys knew there was huge flaws in their movie, and instead of letting their opponent bring it up, they decided to say, "Yeah, my movie has issues, but they're also not that bad." So it's very weird that you just like, "Hey, don't worry, I'm going into this fight with broken ribs, so I'll just point out where to hit me." Like, so when it came down to it, I just think that Dominic got more out. And kind of, but the part was they just beat around the same bush the entire time. Like, it was like, your CGI sucks. No, your CGI sucks. Your third act's not that great. Your third act's not that great. Your movie's boring to watch. Your movie just got nominated for Me Too. So, I'm going to give it to Dominic just because I think Jay pulled back a little bit and didn't attack forward as much. And Dominic started out of the gate pretty strong, so I'll give Dominic, but it was close.
I will agree. I think Dom took home this one because I think he did bring up a few more points attacking Wonder Woman than Jay brought up attacking Watchmen. I think the crux of their arguments were very similar and brought up the same issues, but I think Dom was able to get out a few more blows to Jay. I thought Jay had a roundhouse kick to Watchmen when he said that that no one watches the theatrical because the theatrical is awful. But I think Dom countered that well and kind of negated it by saying, like, well, the theatrical works, but the expanded edition is makes it better, and it just expands. So yeah, I think it kind of negated, but I don't think Jay was able to keep hitting that.
Personally, I agree with Jay 100% because Watchmen's boring to me. If you're watching theatrical, I disagree with the directors, and I feel totally different. It's kind of like Batman vs. Superman for me. I don't like it that much, but they added some stuff that makes a little bit more. I'm 100% with you.
All right, so right now Dom is up 1-0 over Jay as we get into round number 2, and the round 2 question is, what is the best live-action Disney film? And this time we're going to start with Jay for your 1-minute opening argument whenever you start talking.
All right, man. Yeah, I kind of wish I had a little more than less than 24 hours to come up with my ideas. That being said, I chose Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, as my live-action Disney movie. This movie is just like all around great. Like it's one of those things that started from a Disneyland ride, basically, and is expanded from there into a Star Trek-esque landscape where some of the movies are hit and miss, but there are, in my opinion, at least more good ones than there are bad ones. And yeah, so that's where I'm just going to leave that one off at.
All right, Dom, you have a minute for your opening argument.
Yeah, so Disney has been in this fast track and just track lately of remaking all of their live action all of their beloved animated films into live-action films. And just to get kicked off, the one that I thought couldn't possibly work because it was an adaptation of one of my favorites from when I was a kid, and then it ended up being arguably still my favorite one, that'd be Jon Favreau's live-action 2016, The Jungle Book. I'll wait until my actual arguments to make my points.
All right, Jungle Book versus Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. 5 minutes for public discourse on this one. Go ahead. We'll start with Dom again.
All right, so Jon Favreau had arguably been a pretty hit-and-miss director for the most part. You know, he had some successes with Elf and the first Iron Man, obviously knocking it out of the gate. Then he had a few misses, you know, with Iron Man 2, Cowboys and Aliens. Then, you know, he had that cute little film that came out in 2014, Chef, which I've heard is really good things. Then when he comes out with Disney, first of all, I have constantly called Jungle Book the film that ruined CGI for me for the rest of his life because every single bit of CG that I have seen since Jungle Book, yes, even in the great Infinity War that came out earlier this year, has looked off and flawed to me somehow because of how photorealistic those animals were. But I could talk about how great the CG in that movie is all the live long day. The fact that it captured all of the best elements of that story, arguably doing an amazing mix of both the original Rudyard Kipling source material and the beloved 67 Disney animated film, mixing in all the songs while still having a consistent flow to it and having this feeling of the ideas of Law of the Jungle, continuing some of Kipling's ideas from the original book is really amazing to me. And the voiceover talent is all completely spectacular. But also there's the fact that Mowgli, who is the like another no-name first-time kid actor, is not annoying and manages to carry that kind of emotional heart throughout the entire movie is completely fantastic. And don't get me wrong, as much as I love the first Pirates movie, that movie did still unfortunately give us some very bad sequels versus Jungle Book, at least to my knowledge, has still for the most part remained untouched.
I mean, fair enough. It's remained untouched because it's already a remake. This is my whole issue, and allow me to stand on my soapbox because all I'm going to do for the next several minutes is rail against Disney making live action remakes of animated movies.
But before you start, let me just say that is an argument against Disney itself and not against my film specifically.
But it has your film more than it has to do with any of the other ones.
True, but it's not specifically against my film. It's against an overarching problem that has to include a lot of other films.
Yes, it's a large umbrella, but that umbrella still has you as a tentpole because that was one of the big ones that they went after they went after fucking Beauty and the Beast and shit like that.
Incorrect, actually, because this film actually came out a full year before Beauty and the Beast.
You know what I'm talking about.
Devil's advocate, man.
No, you're fine. That's fine. So, soapbox, step. We don't need live action remakes of animated movies, especially Jungle Book. Jungle Book was just fine as an animated movie. I'm waiting to see if you do it one more time before I start talking.
I'm good for now. I'll wait until you're done with your argument.
Neil Sethi was okay. You know, it's really difficult to act against balls and green screen and not really have anything to correlate against. That is a difficult thing. But when you bring something that is as wide breadth and in scope as Caribbean, this is a movie that sucked me in instantly. This is one of those movies where I was like, okay, cool. So who are we talking about? Who is this kid that was floating in the water? Who are these people? Why is that guy there? Okay, now we've time jumped a little bit. Okay, that's the little girl and the little boy from the boat. He makes swords now. Why does he make these swords? And then we get into the bigger thing. We find out that Jack Sparrow is a terrible captain. We find out that he has been marooned on an island and escaped via urban legend by sea turtles using his back hair. By far, probably one of the coolest little things that you can say in a movie that just for shits and giggles and laughing still gets people. The entire last little bit where they all have to go back and they think that it's Keira Knightley instead of Orlando Bloom, and they slice her hand open and they want to go back to being human. It's for the most part a redemption story, and this is why I like that. They aren't necessarily bloodthirsty. They just they wanted immortality. They found out that immortality was bullshit, and they just wanted to go back. That being said, the only real other big issue I have, other than it being a live action remake, is the fact that they took King Louie and gave it to Christopher Walken. He did not do that song justice. I like Christopher Walken, and that movie made me not like him. That's not something that you do in a movie. The voice acting in that movie is above average, but there were better choices for casting in that movie, and I don't think that they went with it.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop right there. That's been 5. So we'll give Jay 1 minute to do his closing, and then Dom will give you a minute to do your closing.
I'll give Dom 1 minute if he wants to destroy my argument.
All right, so Dom, you want to start with your closing argument first?
Yeah, I'll do my closing argument first. So, Jay, you brought up a lot of points about my movie that are definitely true, but again, you started off that argument with arguably your linchpin, which is the thing that's going to destroy you, which is that, again, your argument really only pertains to the branch of overall and Disney itself. It is not an argument that is aimed directly at my movie because, again, you admitted you are not directly criticizing my movie. Not to mention the fact that wouldn't you think that because Disney, there is no need for Disney to remake arguably some of the most perfect films in their canon, and that a majority of them have indeed been bad, so that for this one to come out and not only be really good, but also to be arguably one of the best versus Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Yes, it is a fantastic film. But again, it is a standard fantasy adventure film, and we had arguably gotten better ones. I would argue we even got one amazing one way later on in the year with Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Yes, I know they're different kinds of fantasy, but they both still qualify under the fantasy genre. So with that being said, I feel that this is why my movie trumps Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl.
All right. Jay, you're a minute to close it all out.
I mean, I guess I'll just bring it back to reality. People can't talk to animals.
Suspension of disbelief, my guy. Suspension of disbelief.
Nope, I'm sorry. People can't talk to animals. You're right. High fantasy versus fantasy. They're still both under the umbrella of fantasy. Again,
so what gives the excuse for the animated one? Because it's animated?
Whoa.
Okay,
Jay,
you're right.
Jay is in his closing. Sorry, Jay.
No.
We'll give you some time out there.
No, you're all good. I had to get that chuckle out because I knew it was going to get a rise out of him. No, you definitely come back and in that minute kind of destroyed everything I had to say, but I can't talk a mile and a half a minute for fucking ever in a day. I got breath control. I got to learn it. That being said, yeah. Okay, so
Swimmer for 7+ years will do that. Oh man,
is that it? Are you done?
Yeah, I just got paid off to throw the round.
I don't know for this. I don't even have to pay him.
All right, I guess that's the end of the round then. Yeah, I think Jay's argument was way stronger. I mean, Dom threw out a lot of points about like his cast and stuff, but Jay landed a haymaker of saying like, hey man, like Jungle Book itself isn't that strong of a movie. The story itself isn't that good, and plus it's a remake, it's a rehash, and my story is original as fantasy. It's enthralling, and I heard more from Jay about why his story is good and why Jungle Book is bad than I heard from Dom saying that Pirates is bad and Jungle Book is good. Like all I heard was Dom.
No, I never said Pirates was bad. I said Pirates was a inferior movie compared to Jungle Book. I never said it was a bad movie.
I have written down here that you actually called Pirates great, but it spawned bad sequels, and that being your biggest dig. So, if I had to give my point to someone, I know Jay didn't really have much of a closing, but Dom's closing was atrocious.
Now I know what I said. I'm okay with swapping. That makes sense.
I would give my point to Jay, if I'm being completely honest, because over the entire argument, Jay had me. Even in that ending, Dom couldn't fight it. Like Jay didn't even really need to say anything at the end, in my opinion.
You're not gonna have to convince me that the Dominic's closing shot himself in the foot. So I will gladly. You've convinced me, Caleb. I switched my vote. Jay gets the point.
All right. So moving into the final prepared round of the night, your final prepared question is: pitch Avengers 4. And I know both of you have titles, and it's gonna be this is gonna be my favorite round of the night. So I'm gonna start with Dom. Dom's first. So Dom, I just want you to give me your. Sorry, what was that, Cody?
Can I ask a question? Are Russo brothers directing these movies? Is this what we're going with?
Yes, it's the same confirmed cast and everything.
Oh, I chose different directors.
Okay, well. We'll make it work. This is your world. This is you're the executive in this decision. You are the writer and the creative exec, bringing us what we want to greenlight as an Avengers 4.
All right, so I'm starting off.
Yep, Dom, you have a minute to give us your basic pitch, and then you can elaborate on it further in the discussion rounds.
All right, just give me 1 second. It's the AMA studio executive. I have to sniff some of this imaginary cocaine. All right, so Avengers 4. Endgame. The Avengers have just been completely devastated by their loss against Thanos. They thought they could win, and they got their asses handed to them. And now, as a result, half of them have been wiped away by Thanos' Infinity War snap that apparently also cleared away any chance of the DCEU ever recovering. But that's a completely different argument. So, with that being said, the Avengers managed to come up with, because of course they have to strive to continue against all odds, because Marvel must continue even against a Mad Titan coming and wiping out half of their cast off the board. Marvel must continue against all odds. So what do? They come up with a brilliant idea. They're going to get the remaining forces, and they are going to find Ant-Man and kidnap him once again, because I'm still of the opinion that they completely kidnapped him in Civil War, and They're going to use the quantum realm, and they're going to go back in time, and they are going to get to each one of the Infinity Stones before Thanos does. The only problem is, of course, since Thanos still does have the Infinity Gauntlet, and to our knowledge, it is still working. So as a result, not now. So as a result, the Avengers now are in a race against time against Thanos in order to stop the Mad Titan once and for all.
All right, that was a good starting pitch. Plus, we got a nice cameo from a friend of.
That's my friend from down the. That's my friend from down the hall, Maddie. My dorm room is open, so.
All right, Jay, you have 1 minute to give us your basic pitch. Please, for the sake of us, don't say the title until the very end. Thank you, because I love your title so much. I'm doing that instead. Anyway, all right, 1 minute when you start.
Picture it. It's post-snap. The world has changed. Now everybody seems to be located in downtown Detroit for some reason. It's the mid-90s. Captain Marvel, for some fucking reason, decides that she wants to be a club DJ. There are battle raps everywhere. That's the way shit is decided nowadays. By battle rapping. Avengers 4, snap back to reality. Boom.
All right, Dom, I'm gonna have you
That's
unmute
what I was
yourself
hoping
real quick. Dom, I'm gonna have you unmute yourself real quick. Sorry. All right. Avengers Endgame versus Avengers Snap Back to Reality. 5 minutes maximum of discussion. If I think this is going nowhere, I will cut this off. But this sounds like it's going to be hilarious and fun. All right, we'll start with Jay. Why is this the better? Why should I buy a ticket to this instead of Dom's?
Two names. Edgar Wright, Curtis Hanson. They have decided to team up to make the best 8 Mile movie ever, where the battle rap at the end of the movie decides the fate of the universe. Doctor Strange saw 14,600,000 in 5 different outcomes. This is that 14,600,005th outcome. Everybody makes a cameo. Even Hawkeye makes a cameo in this movie, and he is the Cheddar Bob character that shoots himself in the leg with a fucking arrow. Because fuck Hawkeye, he should have been in the other one.
So he took an arrow to the knee quite literally. And also, I have a question. Is this like one of those like parody offshoot comics that I see like all the time? Because that's what it sounds like.
No, though. Eminem did appear in a Punisher comic.
Also, Curtis Hanson's dead, so I don't know if like you would actually be able to do that. Google me, fact check it, but I'm pretty sure Curtis Hanson died last year, so I'm not quite sure that would be possible. Also,
it's
that's
my
cool.
world.
Yeah, also, that's cool if you want to see, like, the ultimate troll movie, like, in general, but, like, if you actually want a continuation and an ultimate fitting end and wrap-up of sorts to our story, yes, I know that there will be flack that goes towards my movie for, again, continuing Marvel's long-standing trend and tradition of having no stakes, not going anywhere, but guess what? People didn't say that about the first Avengers, and people... Yes, well, they did say that about Civil War. They kept coming back after Civil War, didn't they? My movie will give a fitting conclusion and end and wrap up and a resolution to these characters that we have watched and devoted half of our lives to. Some of us, our entire lives to. Your movie sounds like a good idea for a Red Letter Media troll sketch, and any one of the guys out there that hate Marvel and love to make sketches on it, mine provides an actual fitting wrap up to the story and to these characters that we have loved for so long. And it also doesn't do what Infinity War does, and it actually includes Hawkeye and Ant-Man in the movie.
Okay, fair enough. That being said, your movie literally sounds like everybody trying to come up with their own theories for what happens. There's no way that they can use the quantum realm to go back in time. It would.
Why not?
Okay, so you want to bring up suspension of disbelief. Let's actually bring scientific relativity, my guy. Smaller, faster. Boom, you're going forward. You're not going backwards. It's the 2 different directions, my guy. You're not going 88 miles an hour in a fucking DeLorean, bro. That being said, what would you rather see? A movie by a dead guy who came back as a ghost via a week? And Edgar Wright, the guy who never got the chance to direct a Marvel fucking movie, even though he's probably one of the only directors out there who should have still been given control of Ant-Man? I'm pretty sure that everybody would be like, no, this movie's fucking awesome. And then it hits you in every single point. You got comedy, you got action, you got drama. Got Captain America punching Thanos. You got Thanos getting arrested by regular ass cops in this, taking some shit directly from the comics, my guy.
Okay, hold on. Back up a second. You talk about suspension of disbelief, and then you bring up Thanos getting arrested by regular cops. What the hell is your idea of suspension of disbelief?
I have precedents. It happened in the comics. It's a legitimate thing.
Okay, how many things in the comics have been changed for the purpose of big screen adaptations? My guy.
But have they ever gone back in time in using the quantum realm? No, they haven't. That's the thing. So if that's where we want to go with it, at least I can point to a thing that has happened in my movie that has happened in the comics. Right now, you're one of these kids begging somebody to hit the like and subscribe button to listen to your fucking movie theory. Because that's all you've done. You are creating a movie that you want to have happen and might be a little bit crestfallen if it doesn't. My movie, completely not, I can't say completely original, definitely a fucking ripoff, but at least you're going to tell me right now that you wouldn't buy a ticket, even just on a lark, to be like, yo, are these people fucking with me? Are they trolling
I'd buy a ticket and it'd be a good thing. Yeah, no, here's the thing. I would buy a ticket if I wasn't already so invested in the Marvel movie, and if I didn't think this was a troll thing that was just meant to rip me off of my money. I am sorry, my guy, but we are pitching these movies with the full knowledge that they are still existing in the world, following up the current iteration and existence of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that unfortunately does include and going up to Infinity War. So therefore, I would not be able to take this film seriously, no matter the enjoyment that I got out of it. I would only be able to enjoy it if it were in no relation to the current existing Marvel Cinematic Universe, which unfortunately you are pitching it as. So therefore, it is as such that I cannot take this idea seriously, and therefore I do not think it. Versus, you want to talk about fan comments, my guy? Anthony and Joe Russo have proven that of all the directors in Hollywood and in this current superhero atmosphere that we live in right now, that arguably pay the most attention to the fans and arguably take some of the theories that the fans have dropped online and put it in their movies to the point where they actually become some of the most talked about and interesting ideas in their respective films.
All right. We're gonna cut it off there. It's been 5 minutes of enlightening discussion. We'll start with Dom. Dom, what's your minute for closing arguments?
For closing argument, Jay, you came up with the idea for a joke and somehow managed to turn it into an argument that sort of works as a parody idea. If it's not related to the current Marvel Cinematic Universe, my idea gives a closing resolution and also will continue to put butts in seats, not only for this film, but for future films to come, as at the end, I will inevitably have some setup that keeps it going because, yes, unfortunately, I do have a little bit of a business model, and I do have this idea that, yes, the fact that Marvel has been going for 10 years, I can believe that it can go on for another 10 years and still keep people just as invested, and that is what my movie is intended to do, and that is what my movie will do versus Jay. Jay, your movie is a one-off at best.
All right, Jay, you have a minute for your closing argument. What have you got?
Okay, so again, I will go back to the very beginning of my point. Maybe I might use the quantum realm to do it. That being said, I will go back to the beginning of my argument and say that there were 14,600,005 different outcomes. This just happened to be one of them. You can't sit here and tell me that it's a one-off. It's 1 in 14,600,005. But it's still something that could foreseeably and possibly happen. You want to talk about it being a joke movie? Bro, look at Iron Man 2. We're talking about a fucking joke movie. We'll get on that. We'll talk about that later. That being said, mine is at least a moderately original idea, whereas you're still just trying to follow the outline of what has happened. Why not try something new? That's what I'm doing. Make it something new. And yeah, you know what? What if they do win that giant epic rap battle at the end? They could foreseeably still beat Thanos, and who knows? Maybe this time Peter Quill won't fuck it off by taking by smacking him in the mouth so he doesn't get the glove off.
Stop time. Nice closing there at the end. All right. I'm gonna start and say this was probably the most passionate I've seen Jay all night on an argument.
This is the one I had time
on. Dom kind of even said it himself. It kind of worked as an argument. I feel like Jay actually landed some pretty hard hits on Dom saying that your movie is every fan theory on the internet. No one is expecting kind of what Jay went for. He also tore down your mode of time travel. by saying science doesn't support that the quantum realm, neither do the comics. So kind of tears him down there. And if I had to buy a ticket to one of them, I probably would buy the ticket to Jay's just to see how absurd it was. So I kind of got to give my point to Jay. What do you think, Cody?
Oh my god.
Cody, 15 minutes of his life he'll never get back.
Yeah, right.
What Caleb doesn't know, I've officially blocked him on Facebook, so he can't ask me to be on this shit show. No, I'm just kidding. But,
Ooh.
my gosh. I literally went in here and thinking, well, okay, so what I wrote was, Dom, after your first opening pitch, are you drunk? What the fuck? But then Jay opened his mouth, and I said, what the actual fuck? But then I normally say, which one would I buy a ticket to? But I had to switch all that today because, one, I would not watch either of your movies whatsoever. Because, one, if I walked into for Avengers 4 and I saw Jay's movie up on the screen, I would walk out to the ticket counter and punch that person straight in the face, knowing that they have nothing to do with it. And if I had to watch an entire thing of a freaking hunt through time to find the Infinity Stones before Thanos gets it with the Avengers crew, I would lose my mind. So I'm going to give it to Jay because Jay literally put him up against the corner and punched out the win with saying the science and saying the fan theory thing. I think is almost the biggest thing to a power bomb that you can do in debate, because when he said, yeah, cool, you just did every fan theory it's described like, I was just like, damn. And Jay, I think it threw Dom a little bit for a loop, because with something so ridiculous, like, you get comfortable because you're like, clearly I think I could have a chance. But as he started coming up with debate points, yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, Jay gets the point. What the fuck?
Oh, well. I guess people just don't like the movie that we're actually going to get, so, oh well.
I love the fact that he threw the whiteboard.
Yeah, right.
This was amazing, and now at the end of the regular prepared rounds, Jay is up 2-1 over Dom going into the speed round,
Which last point I'm going to get tonight.
Which works like this. You guys are each going to hear the question. First one to say their answer is going to get to argue it. You have 20 seconds for your initial argument, 15-second rebuttals each. So we double time, super speed. You got to be able to get your points out there fast.
Okay, hold on. Let me channel my inner Coy Jandrew.
No, don't do Coy.
Life finds a way, and you're going to have to find a way, because if you guys are ready, this is the speed round. Your first question is, who should direct the Obi-Wan Kenobi spinoff?
Oh, fuck.
Spielberg.
All right, Jay is saying Steven Spielberg.
Oh, fuck, hold on. Oh, God damn it. Oh, hold on, I gotta think about this. Shit. Fuck it, Stephen Daldry.
Stephen Daldry versus Steven Spielberg.
Before everybody starts talking, the guy you brought up died almost 2 years ago from the last round that was going to be with Edgar Wright, so that's pretty sad. Curtis.
Yeah, Curtis Hanson. Yeah. I know. That's why I brought it up.
But his point about ghost director though almost sells.
Yeah, right.
Stop.
I feel like he should have won the argument based on that alone.
That was last round. This is this round. Steven Spielberg versus Stephen Daldry. Jay, you said it first, which means you have 20 seconds when you start talking for your opening argument, for your 20-second argument.
Spielberg has a track record of making fantastic movies with individuals who happen to be in middle age, in a realm of almost fantasy and even fantasy. He would, I think, do justice to this character a little bit better than almost anybody. And he would have George in his fucking.
All right. Finish writing that down. All right, Dom, 20 seconds when you start talking.
Spielberg arguably hasn't directed a good movie since Lincoln 2012, which is 6 years ago now. I can do math. And versus Stephen Daldry is somebody who I feel like would be able to take a new, unique take on Obi-Wan. Yes, I know he was in the original talking, but I think that he would be able to bring a new take in and truly bring something new to the world of Star Wars that we have not seen before.
Time. All right. Jay, 15-second rebuttal when you start talking.
I would trust the individual who has more director's credits under him than 13. That being said, the last thing that Audrey directed, I do believe, was 2014, and it was Billy Elliot, and it wasn't that good of a movie.
All right, and time.
I'm sorry, it was trash, but still. Not that Billy Elliot was trash. That was literally the last movie that he directed.
All right. Dom, 15 seconds for your rebuttal whenever you start talking.
It was not the last movie that he directed. He directed Billy Elliot actually came out in the year 2000. Check your math. And
I'm on the IMDb page right now.
Called The Reader. The last film that he directed was The Reader, which is actually a very good film that came out in the year 2008. And Stephen Daldry versus Steven Spielberg may have more films under his name, but arguably, especially.
All right, that was a tough argument. Cody, what do you think? Where do you lean on this one?
That's a bad argument for me.
Both are terrible. No. No, it's this is a tough one. Dom has that ability of Coy Jandreau that can spit a lot of words, but do all the words make a full sense? I think Dom has a main problem when he fights is when he's got those stat corrections in his head and he has to like throw them out, but sometimes they don't carry weight. So I have to give Jay the point on this one because I just think Jay got hit. I don't think he got more out, but I think he got more blows, if that makes sense.
I agree with you. I think that when he took Spielberg, he mentioned that he had a great track record, that he works mainly as middle-aged protagonists, does whimsy, and that he has George Lucas's blessing with Star Wars. Whereas he also knocked down Daldry as not having as much experience and hasn't really made a good film in a while. So yeah.
And the stat correction is on his IMDb. It's Billy Elliot Live, which
and that's a play. So
yeah, but it's okay.
But that's why I said trash. I don't know if trash is a movie, but it sounds
all
like
right.
it.
So after that one, Jay is up 3-1 over Dom as we get into our second speed round question.
Real quick, if Jay gets this next one, I lose, right?
Nope, it is first one to 5. So, Dom, you do need to start getting them back. But if Jay wins this one and the next one, that is game.
Got it.
All right, your second speed round question of the night. What is the best live-action DC TV show?
Okay.
Flash.
Legends of Tomorrow.
All right, The Flash versus Legends of Tomorrow. Jay, once again, you spoke first, which means you get 20 seconds once you start talking for your initial argument.
Barry Allen is the best thing that we could all hope to be. Is literally the character in the comics that Batman says that he wishes he could be the man that he would grow into. That being said, Legends of Tomorrow is nothing but a ragtag group of people who don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Still have 5 seconds.
Fuck Legends of Tomorrow.
All right, time. Dom, 20 seconds when you start talking.
Legends of Tomorrow is an almost damn near impossible premise to pull off, but the fact that the show has arguably improved in its almost 4-season trajectory now and gotten goofier and more so embraced the silliness and overall stupidity, for lack of a better word, of the CW versus The Flash has only gotten worse, and in trying to take itself more seriously as time goes on with the story, it has arguably become worse and dipped in quality over the time. That is, shows the signs of a better show, a show that is able to improve over time.
All right, Jay, 15 seconds when you start talking for your rebuttal.
The Flash has had its ups and downs, yes. Whereas the Legends of Tomorrow started at rock bottom and has climbed itself up to almost not rock bottom. That being said, I would still rather watch a show about a dude with super speed than a ragtag group of assholes fly around in a spaceship and still fuck shit up.
All right, Dom. 15 seconds when you start talking. Dom.
Flash's only literal idea was to bring on more speedsters. So the fact where they finally got to a season where they didn't have another speedster as the villain, and that season arguably sucked, versus Legends got to the point where it got so goofy that they could bring on a speedster, and they still were freaking awesome. And yeah. That was cringeworthy. I'm sorry.
All right.
I totally mad with that last argument. God damn it. It's such a good opening, too.
Jay says that Flash is. I'll go with this. Jay said Flash is a great hero. Legends is a bad show. Flash has had its ups and downs, while Legends has sucked continuously and has gone from rock bottom to arguably less of rock bottom. And then Speed versus losers is the last note that I have written down. Whereas for Dom, he said Legends has improved and embraced the silliness. Flash has gotten worse. Flash has failed. Legends is goofy and awesome. So this was pretty even, I think, in terms of the arguments presented. I think I'm going to lean slightly more towards Dom because I think he did land that punch in the face on Jay because Jay never really defended Flash's dip in quality and he never really attacked Legends' improvements super hard. So what do you think, Cody?
So Dominic actually had what I consider in speed round. What I aim to do is bring up your qualities of your show while I tear down the person you're battling, and it was almost perfection. The closing was like he hit a landmine, but I 100% agree. I do not believe that Jay countered the points that were brought up to by Dom, so I have to give Dom the point.
All right, Dom, you have made a big comeback. It's 3-2 now.
Wow.
Good shit, my guy. Good shit.
All right, Jay, you're still up 3-2 as we go into our next speed round question, which is, what franchise should cross over with the Monsterverse, which is Godzilla and King Kong?
DC, because you want to talk about a random franchise that could possibly save it. So, yeah, DC.
Okay, DC. Jay, what do you got?
Hold your debate. The Worlds of DC, is that what we're going with?
Yeah, Worlds of DC.
I'm going to go with Worlds of DC.
Okay. I will pull out the only Harry Potter-esque universe character that Caleb Coho has ever seen and say Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Oh, God. Fantastic Beasts is the only Harry Potter property you've ever seen, Caleb.
Fun fact, that's changed recently, but I'm just going to...
Oh, good. Okay, you're on the right path.
Okay, so we have the Worlds of DC versus Fantastic Beasts. Dom, you did speak first. 20 seconds whenever you start talking as to why the Worlds of DC, aka the DCEU, should cross over with the Monsterverse.
Worlds of DC is already in a quick enough bind considering the fact that one of their two biggest stars already just left, and the fact that no matter what happens where they try to improve it, it only ever seems to get worse for them. So why not throw them into a franchise that keeps popping up randomly and suddenly, and to the point where it gets mixed reviews, but not quite to the point where it derails it. Also, they're both co-owned by Warner Brothers, so that would be an easy merger for the two of them, and it will create for some really interesting battles, to say the least.
All right. Not Dom. Jay, you have 20 seconds when you start talking for your first argument.
Newt Scamander loves everything, whether it's magical, whether it seems like it's magical. That being said, why would you want to destroy two fucking franchises at that point in time? We already have one that's against the ropes. You want to fuck up the kaiju movies? That's the only thing they have going for them. Don't do that. Newt Scamander would take care of them.
Time. All right. Dom, 15 seconds when you start talking for your closing argument.
You want to talk about messing up the kaiju movies? What's the concept weakest element of those movies? The freaking goddamn humans. So why don't you take out those boring-ass regular humans and put in some humans that would actually be able to give us what we want, which is seeing humans that can actually take on the freaking monsters without having to don giant suits Pacific Rim style. And DC would definitely be able to do that. Recast them.
All right. Jay, 15 seconds for your closer when you start talking.
Because I feel sympathy for shit like Godzilla. I understand that empathy is a thing. I don't want to see Batman punch him in the fucking face. That's cool and all, but I would love to see Newt Scamander be able to be like, yo, this isn't his actual habitat. This is where he is. This is what he needs to survive and thrive.
Time. All right. Cody, what do you got for this one? Because I honestly got nothing at this moment.
Wow. I almost like respect the pick of Newt's Commander because that's hilarious to me. After he said it, I was just like, that's perfect actually. But I think the glancing blow that it was hard to come back with, which Dom countered. This is tough. Slight edge to Jay. Just because how like you want to fuck up two franchises at once, when one's on the rope and the other, and I do not believe that bringing the humans that are the problem and bringing Batman and Flash is gonna save that. So I'm gonna slightly go with Jay, but if you have a different view, I can be swayed.
No, I actually 100% agree with you because I also lean towards Jay for his unconventional pick of Newt Scamander, who loves giant weird things. And
but not that big.
The "Why Destroy 2" comment was really big. And Dom said Warner Brother owns DC. Well, they own Harry Potter also, so he didn't say that though. But Jay did present examples of interesting stories that could be done, sympathy and empathy, rather than Batman punching big monsters.
Come on, though.
Was a good argument. It was a good argument. Dom never really touched the Fantastic Beasts at all, so I gotta go to Jay. So Jay is now up 4-2. So this is a must hit. This is a must hit for Dom. Your potentially final speed round question. What Disney Pixar film should get a sequel that hasn't already gotten one?
Inside Out.
Dom's going Inside Out. You got anything, Jay?
Give me one quick second.
All right. Well, in this dead air that I attempt to fill, this is once again a must hit for Dom. If Jay gets this, it is over.
This is like, I don't understand. Like
Ratatouille.
All right, Ratatouille. All right, Inside Out versus Ratatouille. Interesting. All right. I reiterate one more time. This is a must hit for Dom. Dom, you spoke first. 20 seconds once you start talking.
Of all the unnecessary Pixar sequels that we have gotten, Inside Out is one of the few Pixar original ideas that actually does leave itself open for a sequel. We see the emotions inside of Riley's head when she's a little girl. Imagine seeing those emotions and what they would go through when she is a teenager and an adult. So much so that this is an idea that has been played around with already by a lot of people on the internet. Imagine seeing it on the big screen. And actually, unlike the trajectory of a lot of unnecessary Pixar sequels that we have gotten, that even affected Incredibles 2 to a certain extent, it was actually...
All right. Jay, 20 seconds when you start talking for Ratatouille.
I think it's a little creepy that you want to get inside the mind of a teenage girl, especially with her emotions. That's a little bullshit.
Of
course, because the entire thing is about emotions. That being said, I would much rather watch a movie about somebody who has already gained adoration and has to learn how to be a great chef outside of the help of using a rat, while still using the rat to teach him how to become a better cook.
Time. All right. Dom, 15 seconds when you start talking.
Ratatouille is another Pixar movie that only sets you up for one type of a sequel, and that is just a repeat of the first one. So what? Linguini gets to the top position of a chef. It will just end up ultimately being that he has to overcome another challenge of cooking, which is ultimately what those movies set up for. Versus Inside Out would show an amazing growth to adulthood.
Time. All right. Jay, your final 15 seconds.
Speaking as an individual who has already surpassed puberty, I don't want to know what's going on inside the mind of a fucking female at that age. The only thing I'm worried about is titties and ass. That being said, the sequel wouldn't be just that, because it would also be him learning how to run his own restaurant and learn how to handle that better. Shit, I didn't go with my one.
Cody, what do you got on this one?
So, when Dom picked his choice, I said, ooh, okay, as long as he doesn't bring up that she's a teenager or that she's an adult. And then he said a teenager, an adult, glancing blow to just punch in the face numerous times. So it's almost like when we did the late night to Take Three, when it was Worst Simpson's character and Winston Marshall picked Abu, or whatever his name is. And you can't argue the racist card. You can't argue that I don't want to watch a movie about a teenage girl that goes through puberty. I'm sorry, I have to give the point to Jay.
And I agree, because that was a big hit. Also, Dom never really he tried to make that hit of Ratatouille. He said Ratatouille only sets you up for one kind of sequel, which is a rehash of the original. But Jay countered that well by saying, no, it doesn't have to be that, and giving me a few examples of what the sequel actually could or would be. Whereas Dom just kind of said teenage girl brain, and that was Jay hit that really hard. So your winner,
no,
Jay Burnz.
No.
Congrats, buddy. You deserve it.
Thank you, dude.
Wow.
I appreciate that.
Oh, man. Well, I'm going to be totally honest. A lot of my arguments sucked that game. Like, you guys are being nice. My arguments were the worst.
That was a really good battle. Like, Dom winning the first one.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm entertaining and as hell and energetic as hell, but my debating skills clearly need some work.
Dom got that first point and kind of like, I thought he had set the tone for like what the rest of the fight was going to be.
Nope.
And then Jay came out of nowhere with that second one, won it, upset Dom in the third round, won it. And then I thought Dom, because he talked so much with and so fast, was going to take that speed round. Jay pulling the speed round out by just coming up with more thoughtful arguments in this less amount of time that he talked was really interesting. What do you got, Cody?
Oh my gosh. I can't believe the guy that picked Snap Back to Reality is a
great name. Don't even give me that. It's a great name.
It is a pretty fucking great name. I gotta admit, I would pay to see that movie.
But like, yeah, I've always said if you can talk fast, that's a fantastic point. But the words have to matter most.
Yeah, and that's kind of my problem.
To capitalize so much on just when he said something, it was just like a straight. It's like being in a heavyweight fight. Like, the guy is just going to overhand punch one time and hope it connects, and he connected more times than not. So, yeah, Jay did a great job. Again, it doesn't matter. It just matters your opponent. It doesn't matter your debate skills. It matters if you can capitalize on what they say. So, good job, Jay.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate that. Great job, dude.
I'll start with Dom. How do you feel about how you did tonight?
Oh, man, I feel like I did a shitty job. I mean, I'm glad I was on it, and I'm glad that I did so bad on the first time out, because that gives me room to improve. And, of course, I mean, of all the people to lose to, like Jay, my brother in arms, my fellow Revenger, I mean, how could I pick a better guy to lose to? What I will say, though, is that I definitely need to focus on my actual, more so, like, my speed is fine. I have to focus on the actual content, and this is more so of a personal issue of mine that affects me in every facet of my life, not just with movies, but is that I tend to try and get out as much as I possibly can, because my extreme short-term memory is terrible, and it's only getting worse the older I get. So I definitely need to do, I don't know if it's beforehand preparation or just in general, just slowing myself down and thinking more. Granted, the speed round, that doesn't give me with a lot of room and options for adjustability in terms of that arena, but in terms of the initial pre-arguments, I definitely need to do some more work in that arena.
All right. Do you hope to come back? Do you hope to come back and play another Nerdgasm?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Good. I just hope that this doesn't discourage you from coming back.
Oh no. No. You know me. You should know me better at this point, Caleb. I don't get discouraged by anything.
All right. And Jay, how do you feel about winning? This was a pretty big upset win for you.
Of course it was, because I kind of figured that Newberry would have shit all over to reality. Fuck, my guy. That's why I didn't tell. That's why I didn't say it. And I was glad that you were like, "Oh no, wait until the very end and be like, yo, say this." The first round I kind of figured would have been my strongest one, and I liked that he was able to counter just about everything I said. And like I said, also it was really just a cyclical argument. I'm pointing out the same things in his movie that he's pointing out in mine. He does talk a lot faster than I do. I was just, I guess, lucky enough to be able to listen to his argument and be like, oh, wait, but here's this counterpoint to that. And I think that's really what saw me through the day. I think if we had a third judge, I probably would have lost by question number 2. So I like this 2-judge round. I'm not going to lie, my guy.
Yeah, it worked. It definitely worked.
Judge life.
Because Cody and Caleb, for the most part, completely unified against me for their entire round. And honestly, after seeing my performance, I don't blame them at all.
Hold on. I just got to say this. Cody, here you go. Caleb.
Yes.
Oh, he's paying us.
Oh, you. It all makes sense now.
I only accept PayPal.
It all makes sense now.
What about Bitcoin or Ethereum? No. That being said, I was wholeheartedly surprised that I pulled the W out, because even when me and Dom sit and we do our Friendly Neighborhood Movie Nerds, which you can find on YouTube, by the way, he usually has a lot more to say about it than I do, because he has this encyclopedic knowledge locked away in his fucking cranium that scares me. Like, legitimately, I'm like, holy shit, dude, where the fuck do I get those flashcards? And I can't get them. But it's a bittersweet victory. That being said, I walked into this expecting to lose, so walking out the victor is one of those things that is just pleasantly surprising.
What I do want to say, Jay, is this puts you in an interesting spot. You are now going to be facing the winner of Sandy Robinson and Nat Rosa.
Oh God, I hope.
And before you say that, if you win that, you will go into a #1 contenders match for the Nerdgasm title.
No!
Congratulations, Jay! That's again for beating me. Not focusing on the #1 contender part. Who would you rather face in your next match, Sandy Robinson or Matthew Rosa?
Look, okay, I have had more interactions with Sandy than I have had with Matthew. That being said, I like them both fine. Me and Sandy have this back and forth banter, especially since before our first nerd match. And, you know, I hate sand. That's about all I can say. But I want to face them both, but I think Sandy would be the more dominant of players to face. And the only thing I'm looking for, not that I didn't get it here, and I don't want it to come across that way, but if by some pure point of happenstance, Sandy doesn't win, it's not that I'll be disappointed. It will be more along the lines, I would rather play Sandy because I think his movie knowledge runs a little bit deeper. And I think that has to do with experience and age. Not trying to take anything away from Matthew Rosa, but Matthew Rosa is a little bit on the younger side. And I'm not trying to compare myself to the Sandman, but we're a little closer in age than I do believe me and Rosa are.
All right. So that's been today's Nerdgasm. This was really fun. So I'll start with our winner, Jay Burnz. Where can they find you on the internet?
I already told you where you could find me and Dom on YouTube. Hopefully here in the next couple of days, since I have those off for some unfucking known reason. You can find a couple of more. You can find us sitting through and talking through movies, so you don't have to, on your friendly neighborhood movie nerds. We have Avengers: Infinity War. We have not Frankenweenie,
Paranorman, Clerks.
Coraline, and Clerks.
We have a couple more. What about on Ninja Scroll and Exorcist?
I will get to those.
Okay.
You can also find me on Facebook at @Burnz. You can find me on Twitter at @Burnz253. You can find me on Instagram at @bargang_Burnz. And you can find me, I don't know, I guess beating every single one of my teammates in anything, with the exception of Dustin Mason, online.
All right, Dom, where can they find you?
Same place as Jay on Friendly Neighborhood Movie Nerds on YouTube. Also subscribe to my own personal channel, Movie Nerd Reviews, on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram, just at my name, Dominic Rizzi, on Twitter at Movie Nerd Review, and also on one of my two websites, movienerdreviews.com or letterboxd.com/Dom81797.
All right, my awesome co-host and co-judge tonight, Cody Newberry. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Cody Newberry. You can find me over at Full Metal. You can find me at Take 3. Where I do watch-alongs. Tomorrow we're doing The Lion King with me, Robert, Linus, and Sandy. It's fun times, and you can find me also on Thursday defending my mini speed round blah 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 debate. Late night with Take 3. Also, you can find me on Jukebox Trivia on Take 3, being the host of a playlist because Brooklyn can't be there, so he decided to give me the keys, so he's never getting it back.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Caleb Coho. That's KALEBKOHO. You can find me on YouTube, Caleb Coho and Coho Productions. Those are my two channels. One's music, one's movies. You decide. My movie Check Part 2 is out on both channels right now, where you can watch for free. What's not free is my album Shoot for Teams, which is with my group The Forks. You can find that on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you consume your digital music. And you can find me right here on Multiplex Entertainment, hosting Fandom Fight every Friday. Nerdgasm every Saturday, Multiplex Fantasy Football every Wednesday, and a new show with Jake Marangoni every Thursday that we will be announcing very soon, so stay tuned. That's going to be cool. But yeah, this has been Nerdgasm, guys. That has been Jay. That has been Dom. That has been Cody. I have been Caleb. This has been Nerdgasm, and we'll see you all next week.